The Biden administration has colluded with the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. That WPATH is what it's also known as. But this is an activist organization. And the whole intent behind this cooperation is to remove age restrictions on gender mutilation surgeries. It's really disturbing stuff. And this is your tax dollars at work. I mean, you need to understand that as well. So what was exposed to the public? Where is all of this headed? Joining me now to discuss this is FRC's Senior Fellow for Education Studies, Meg Kilgannon. Meg, welcome back to the show. Thank you for joining us.
It's great to be here, Jody. Thanks for having me.
All right, this is a big deal, and yet another one of those things that, it always seems like we have this big news item and everybody's focused on it. And while that's happening, there are things happening behind the scenes that if you're not keeping a good pulse on it, it can just go underneath the radar. But this is one of those things that we cannot allow to go under the radar. So let's start. Can you remind us about this activist organization, WPATH? Tell us who they are and what the Biden administration is pushing for.
WPATH is just as you described it, Jody. It's an activist organization of healthcare professionals, psychologists, psychiatrists, endocrinologists, plastic surgeons, all kinds of people who are interested not in transgender health, but in transgender bodily achievement, basically. They're interested in perfecting medical science in a way that makes it possible for a man to completely change into a woman or woman to completely change into a man, which of course is impossible. And the additional layer of horror over this situation is that they want to do this to children too. I mean, this isn't appropriate health care at all. This isn't health care. But you could maybe go along with some level of freedom for an adult who chose to do this. I don't agree with that, but some might argue that way. But I think we could all agree that children should not be experimented on in this way. And these documents that are revealed show that the Biden administration Secretary of, not Secretary of Health and Human Services, but he is an official in the Department of Health and Human Services, Rachel Levine, a man who presents himself as a woman, was advocating to the world profession, to WPATH, that they should eliminate the mention of age as regards children, because other activist organizations like the ACLU were saying that this would be that mentioning ages at all is a problem for them when they are litigating these acts in the states that are attempting to ban the procedures that we're talking about, these medical experiments on children.
Wow. So let's make sure that the dots are well connected. So we have Rachel Levine, he, she, whatever, within the administration. How involved was the administration in directing the traffic, so to speak, so that this collusion with WPATH takes place and that the Biden administration is cooperating?
They were advising, they were offering this advice and agreeing with it. Maybe one way to solve this problem, so to speak, of people pushing back on the idea that children should have access to these kind of they call them treatments, I call them experiments, that if we just eliminated age from this opportunity, then everything would be better. And it would be easier for everybody. He was very much involved in this process. And this is it's not an appropriate role for government, obviously, to be engaging with activist organizations this way. The American Psychological Association also was involved in these exchanges via email. And we know about this because of a lawsuit that is happening against one of some of the legislation that was passed in a state to try to protect children. That's being litigated now, and there's discovery, and so this information is coming to light. And it's really important. I know it's complicated. It's a little bit hard to explain, but it's really important for people to understand that that's why we need to bring these lawsuits. Sometimes it feels like we're not getting anywhere, but over time, things are revealed. And you get to see the inside of organizations who try to keep their workings secret in this way. And so this is a really important discovery. It shows you how interested the Biden administration is in advancing this horrible agenda. And it shows you that we really cannot trust this administration to work in the interest of children.
A great point. And again, as my understanding, the American Academy of Pediatrics was also involved in it. I mean, this kind of like has tentacles going all over the place. If you can, Meg, we've just got a couple of minutes, but remind our audience of the harms. It ought to be pretty obvious, but the harms of gender mutilation procedures, especially when we're talking about children.
Well, that starts with the social affirmation of a child when they are allowed to present as the opposite sex in school or dress, wear the wrong, clothing, or present as the opposite sex. But then it quickly progresses to hormone suppression, puberty blockers, then hormone suppression, then hormone replacement, right? And this is on children as young as 8 years old, sometimes even younger. This is horrific. And then we know cases where minor girls have had radical mastectomies that are euphemistically called top surgery, but their healthy breasts are removed. It's beyond comprehension, the agenda that this organization has.
Meg Kilgannon, thank you so much for keeping a pulse on this, especially in times when so many other things are flying around in the news. We appreciate you keeping us aware of what's happening out there on this incredibly important topic, and look forward to having you back on it. Thanks for joining us.